Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T. To all my bed crimers, hi, how are you? I hope you're having a great weekend. To anyone new here, a warm welcome. Let me just ask that after watching and or listening to the video, if you find you enjoyed it or learned something, do me a favor, smash the like button and consider subscribing. Now, let's dig in. Ladies out there, guys too, have you ever been in a relationship with someone that you absolutely adored, someone you loved madly and deeply to the point where it was almost an obsession, and you even felt a sense of ownership over this person, as in, this is my man or this is my woman, and don't nobody else dare come near him? And what if your guy or gal told you they loved you too, and you even moved into their house, although it was during the COVID pandemic, and it was initially because you needed a place to shelter? What if this guy, yeah, it's a guy in this story, of yours had a roving eye, and some people in your social circles thought of him as a player? Let's say you were together for 3 years, but it was on again, off again. He's not 100% devoted to you, so there are tussles. And at one point, during an off-again period, your guy has a fling with another female, a female who's 10 years younger than you, very attractive and very successful in pretty much everything she does. During that period, you even call this girl multiple times to declare that this man belongs to you, even though you're currently broken up. It gets so bad that the other female has to block you. She secretly thinks of you as the fatal attraction woman, the one who boils the pet rabbit. Imagine that this other female had obtained a degree in engineering from Dartmouth, was a skilled alpine skier, and also happened to be an up-and-coming star of professional gravel bike racing, same sport your man competes in professionally. Your guy is very impressed with this young woman, and he even thinks she's the best female cyclist in the United States and possibly even in the world. How would that make you feel? You cycle too, but you're not a professional. If you're confident and your mental health is good, you're probably okay with this scenario. But if those things aren't in place and you're not mentally in a good spot, this other woman could have you feeling very territorial and threatened. And although your man's relationship with this young woman was supposedly brief, you and he ultimately got back together, you secretly worry that she might still show up and steal him. This plays into all your fears of abandonment and all your insecurities about your own looks, your athleticism or a lack of it, and your ability to hold on to this man. And somewhere deep down in your gut, you know you cannot trust your guy, especially not around that girl. Now, because you and your guy have a business together, you share a work iPad that is linked to his cell phone. Unbeknownst to him, you're able to see his text messages, and because you don't trust him, you sneak into his messages and read them. And because he knows you're jealous of this other girl, but he secretly wants to continue communicating with her, he uses a fake name for her in his contacts. He hopes this will throw you off. So both you and your guy are deceptive with each other, which hints that your relationship has some major cracks. Well, one day you find out that this superstar girl is going to be in your town for a big gravel race over the weekend. So you go into your man's messages to see if there's been any contact, and you see that he texted her to ask if she wants to go swimming and then to dinner when she gets into town. Not only aren't you invited, your man hasn't told you about it. Thus you are highly pissed off. But instead of confronting your guy and blaming him for this betrayal, you focus your hurt, which soon turns into rage, at the girl. After all, you warned her to stay away from him, and she's clearly not obeying your missive. This is the type of powder keg situation that a 34-year-old yoga instructor named Kaitlin Armstrong found herself in back in May of 2022. Armstrong is currently on trial for the murder of that other woman, a pro cyclist who lost her life on May 11th of 2022. Armstrong's trial began on October 30th and is well underway. Back in 2021, Kaitlin was living with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, professional cyclist, 35-year-old Colin Strickland, in his house in Austin, Texas. And because of her shared business with Colin, Kaitlin had access to an iPad that was linked to Colin's messages. So unbeknownst to Colin, Kaitlin was reading every text he wrote. Now, Kaitlin was also a yoga instructor, and in 2018, she'd even traveled to Bali to attend a month-long yoga training. The other people in the training quickly bonded, but not with Kaitlin. They noticed some strange things about her, like how quiet and withdrawn she was, and how she had made a huge fuss one night about accidentally eating a food she said she was allergic to. Her reaction was so over the top that some felt she was making it up, and maybe even a little bit psychologically off. The other woman, the third section of what has been called a love triangle, was 25-year-old Anna Mariah Wilson, or Mo as she was known. Note that Mo's family and friends hate that term, love triangle, and they insist Mo wasn't involved with Colin Strickland at the time. But we know sometimes young women don't tell their parents everything. A Vermont native, Mo lived in San Francisco and was a quickly rising star in gravel cycling. Her success had been born out of hard work and an iron will to never give up. When she raced on her bike, no matter how many times the chain came off, the tire went flat, Mo, with her thick blonde braid falling from her helmet, maintained her grace, poise, grit, and subtle smile. The truth is, she loved the rigor of the sport and the feeling of lactic acid washing over her muscles after a workout. But Mo wasn't just an athlete. She also loved cooking and was something of a gourmand. In her spare time, she baked banana bread, and to her parents, Aaron and Eric, and her brother back in Vermont, she was so precious. Now, Colin Strickland and Mo Wilson had a brief relationship that, according to Colin, lasted only a week or two back in October of 2021 when Mo was in Austin. It's hard to know, however, how long the relationship really lasted. Colin ended up back with Kaitlin, and when Mo next ran into Colin, Kaitlin was with him. It sounds like Mo was under the impression at the time that she and Colin were still dating when she saw him at this event with Kaitlin. So she was confused. Colin had not told her that he was back with Kaitlin for whatever reason. Maybe he didn't realize he was going to see Mo at that event and was hoping to continue spending time with her on the side. Only Colin knows for sure. Per one of Kaitlin's former friends, a woman named Jacqueline Chastain, Kaitlin had told her that after Mo and Colin briefly dated, Colin had made it clear to Mo that he was back with Kaitlin. Kaitlin told Jacqueline that despite Colin telling Mo this, Mo kept contacting Colin, which, if that's true, would be freaking infuriating. But can we believe what Kaitlin said to this friend? Kaitlin was desperate to have Colin to herself. Did she say that hoping it was true? Or did Colin maybe tell Kaitlin that he had said those things to Mo when he really hadn't? It's such a tangled web. And we know that Colin Strickland was not being fully honest with Kaitlin or with Mo. Fast forward to the day before the crime occurred. It's Tuesday, May 10th of 2022. Mo Wilson has just flown into Austin to train for a bike race that is to take place over the weekend on May 15th in Hyco, which is southwest of Fort Worth. She's staying at her friend Caitlin Cash's apartment in Austin as she prepares for the race. Cash is a fellow cyclist, although not a pro like Mo, and she and Mo have become thick as thieves over the past 6 months. Colin Strickland knows that Mo's in town and he texts her, asking if she wants to go swimming Wednesday night and then to dinner. Colin is planning to help Mo get more sponsorships. Mo, despite Kaitlin's repeated warnings to stay away from her man, says yes. Colin, of course, doesn't tell Kaitlin. Instead, he makes up some lie about where he's going to be. By the way, Kaitlin's rage toward Mo, even before finding out about this secret get-together, was already off the charts. She'd told two of her friends that if Mo Wilson ever tries to date Colin again, then she, meaning Kaitlin, is going to do Mo in, as in take her out. And if we are to believe the prosecutors currently trying Kaitlin wasn't joking. This would seem to indicate that Kaitlin's mental health was not all that good. Most people of healthy mind, no matter how much they despise someone, aren't actually going to follow through on such a threat. Yes, maybe you fantasize about harming someone who hurt you, but no, you're not actually going to do them in because you're not crazy. You're not capable of such violence, and you don't want to spend your life in prison. So Kaitlin knows about Colin and Mo's plans, but she doesn't let Colin know that she knows. Sneaky little lady. It's now Wednesday, May 11th, 2022, the day when Mo and Colin are to meet up. At 5:30 p.m., Mo's friend Cash leaves the apartment. Cash is going to meet up with some of her friends for dinner. At 5:45 p.m., Colin Strickland arrives at the apartment on his motorcycle to take Mo swimming at Austin's Deep Eddy Pool, which is like this incredibly cool pool that actually connects to a river. After swimming, they're going to grab a bite at Pool Burger. Mo leaves Cash's apartment at exactly 5:55 p.m. and locks the door behind her. Now, while Colin and Mo are out swimming and dining and talking about how to get sponsorships, Kaitlin is keeping track of their movements and locations through a fitness app called Strava. Both Colin and Mo keep track of their workouts on Strava. God, this Kaitlin is like a super sleuth / hacker. I mean, she could have been a very good spy. After dinner, Colin drops Mo back off at Cash's apartment at 8:36 p.m. and he heads home. He pulls over at some point to text Kaitlin to tell her he's on his way. He writes, "Hey, are you out? I went to drop some flowers for Allison at her son's house up north and my phone died. Heading home unless you have another food suggestion," end quote. This dude lies way too well. Kaitlin doesn't reply. Back to Mo. She enters Cash's apartment at around 8:36 p.m. and sees that Cash isn't home yet. 1 minute later, at 8:37 p.m., unbeknownst to Mo, a security camera outside captures a dark-colored SUV slowing down and then stopping directly next to Cash's apartment. The SUV appears to have a large bike rack mounted on it and chrome around the windows. No other vehicles are captured on the video until emergency vehicles later show up. I'm getting ahead of this bed crime story. About 35 minutes later, which would be around like 9:15 p.m., Mo uses her cell phone for the very last time. And if we are to believe prosecutors, Kaitlin somehow gets inside Cash's apartment right around the same time, 9:15 p.m. In her hand, she carries a loaded 9mm Sig Sauer that Colin bought her and that she's recently been practicing with at the firing range. Kaitlin confronts Mo in the bathroom. She has Mo cornered. A neighbor's security camera records the last thing Mo Wilson ever does, which is scream out in terror. She must have seen the perpetrator, allegedly Kaitlin, and the weapon aimed smack at her. After she screams, there are 3 loud pops. Pop! 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 Which the authorities believe are shots. Take a listen. Beautiful Mo, with all her potential and so much to look forward to, is injured in 3 places. 2 wounds to her head and 1 directly to her heart. Talk about symbolism. Kaitlin, if she's the guilty party, stood over Mo as she laid on the floor, injured, and inflicted that final wound into her heart to make sure she would never take another breath. In an instant, Mo Wilson is gone. Her incredibly bright light extinguished, her rising career over. Investigators believe that Kaitlin then exited the apartment and presumably took Mo's expensive racing bike with her because the bike was found by the cops approximately 68 feet south of Cash's apartment, concealed in thick bamboo. Why would Kaitlin take the bike? To maybe try and make it look like a robbery? Meanwhile, back at the house she shares with Colin, Colin arrives home at 8:43 p.m. He's surprised that Kaitlin isn't there. He texts her 2 more times. The last text is sent at approximately 9:21 p.m. That's right around the time Mo Wilson was being fatally injured. Per Colin, Kaitlin arrived home soon after his third text, so let's say around 9:30 p.m. She was driving her black Jeep Grand Cherokee with a large mounted bike rack and chrome around the windows. Once back home, Kaitlin acts calm. Per Colin, she gives no indication that anything's wrong. Back over at the crime scene apartment at 1708 Maple Avenue, Cash arrives home at about 9:54 p.m. She's no doubt horrified to find Mo covered in blood on the bathroom floor. Cash dials 911, and at 9:56 p.m., Officer Martin Salinas responds to the call. He goes inside and finds Cash performing CPR on Mo. Tragically, Mo is beyond help, and she's pronounced deceased at 10:10 p.m. by one Dr. Escott. Cash tells the officer that Colin Strickland took Mo swimming that evening. The next morning, Detectives Spittler and Ayers of the Austin Police drive to Colin Strickland's house. Upon arrival, they see 3 vehicles in the driveway: a BMW motorcycle, a Mercedes, and a black Jeep Grand Cherokee. Colin agrees to drive to the police station for an interview. He tells the cops that he lives with his girlfriend, Kaitlin Armstrong, and that they've been dating for 3 years. He also says that his house was broken into the night before. What? Who broke into Colin and Kaitlin's house, and why? Was that break-in for real, or was it maybe staged by someone to make Kaitlin and Colin seem like victims of some mad criminal who's out in Austin to get cyclists? If so, who staged it? It's an enduring mystery. Colin also mentions that he and Kaitlin briefly broke up for 1 or 2 weeks in October of 2021, and during that break, he met Mo Wilson. He says that he and Mo had a romantic relationship before he began dating Kaitlin again. He also says that while he and Mo were dating, Kaitlin called Mo to tell her that she's dating Colin and to stay the heck away from him. Colin tells the cops that based on his girlfriend Kaitlin's history of jealousy, he didn't tell her about the recent swimming get-together with Mo. Colin also speaks very highly of Mo during his interview. He tells the cops that she's the best female cyclist in the United States and possibly in the world. When he talks about Kaitlin, Colin states that he told her in the past that she doesn't need to ride with him when he's training because she holds him back. The detectives ask Colin who all the vehicles belong to. He tells them the motorcycle and Mercedes are his, and the Jeep belongs to Kaitlin, and she's the only person who drives it. Colin also tells the cops that Kaitlin didn't know where Mo Wilson was staying while in Austin. While Colin is being interviewed, officers execute a search warrant at his house. They find 2 weapons. One is a 9mm Sig Sauer. The cops then see that Kaitlin has an outstanding Class B warrant for her arrest. Unbelievable. So they go out and they apprehend her, and they take her to the Austin Police Department's homicide unit for an interview. During the interview, it was relayed to the officer that the warrant for Kaitlin's arrest is not valid and she will be free to leave after the interview. Apparently, Kaitlin had gotten some Botox at some spa and then she'd left without paying. Kaitlin clearly doesn't mind breaking the law. She must have wanted that Botox pretty pretty damn badly. When Kaitlin was asked if she had heard what had happened in the past 24 hours, she began to nod her head, and she stated that Colin had walked into the house and said that one of the women in the cycling community had passed away. The cops noticed that Kaitlin was very still when she would speak. They tell her Colin had been talking to Mo Wilson, the deceased cyclist. Kaitlin continues to remain silent and completely still when they confront her with video evidence of a dark Jeep Cherokee, just like hers, being near the crime scene when the crime went down. Kaitlin has no explanation for it. The cops also tell her that Colin had said she was upset about him spending time with Mo. Upon hearing this, Kaitlin turns her head and rolls her eyes in an angry manner. Interesting that she was so still and silent before, and then when the cops mention this part, she reacts so strongly. It's like they hit her Achilles heel. Soon Kaitlin said she wanted to leave, and the interview ended. Later, the police contact a friend of Mo Wilson's. They refer to her as Jane in the arrest affidavit for Kaitlin Armstrong because this friend wanted to maintain her anonymity. I'm pretty sure she was terrified of retribution. Jane said that Mo and Colin's relationship started during Mo's first trip to Austin in the fall of 2021. Jane advised that Kaitlin discovered Mo's phone number and contacted her several times, causing Mo to block her. Jane also stated that Mo told her that within the past 2 months, Kaitlin suddenly began following her on Instagram. The investigators are beginning to piece together what they think may have led to Mo's death and who is likely responsible. But they still have to check out Colin's alibi. They have to make sure he could not possibly have been in the area of the apartment when Mo died. It is now May 13th, 2022, 2 days after Mo Wilson's death. Kaitlin speaks to Colin for the very last time. She also deletes her social media accounts, sells her Jeep for $12,200, and then disappears without telling anyone she's leaving or where she's going. The next day, on May 14th, so 3 days after Mo Wilson died, an anonymous caller contacts the Austin police. She says that she'd been with Kaitlin in January of 2022 when Kaitlin discovered Colin was having a romantic relationship with Mo Wilson. This caller advises that Kaitlin became furious and was shaking in anger. The caller was one of the friends who testified that Kaitlin said she wanted to do Mo Wilson in. On May 17th, 6 days after the crime, Kaitlin's Sig Sauer is recovered from Colin's house and is test fired. The fired test cartridge is then compared to the shell cases found at Cash's house near Mo's body. It's a match. Now the investigators want to get Kaitlin back down to the station, but they're unable to find her. When Colin realizes that Kaitlin may be involved and that she's missing, he goes into hiding. He's really afraid that she's going to come after him now. He even leaves Texas. He's not taking any chances with his allegedly cray-cray girlfriend who's on the loose. The cops will later figure out that Kaitlin used her sister's passport, which either the sister gave her or she stole from her sister, to travel by plane from Texas to New Jersey, and then from New York to Costa Rica. And she takes her yoga mat with her. Either Kaitlin's guilty or she's worried she's going to be blamed. If you've done nothing wrong, why suddenly skip town? Authorities eventually track Kaitlin down 43 days later at a hostel on Santa Teresa Beach in Punta Arenas, Costa Rica. She's staying there and teaching yoga classes for her keep. U.S. Marshals promptly arrest her, and they extradite her back to the United States. Now, when they first see her face, they can tell that she looks different from her photos. She also has a bandage over her nose. She tells them that it's from a surfing accident. But a very industrious reporter finds out that Kaitlin left several things behind in a locked box at the hostel in her room. 2 passports, one with her name and one with her sister's, and a receipt for $6,000 worth of plastic surgery. It's strange that the U.S. Marshals didn't grab all this stuff as evidence, but who knows why? It turns out Kaitlin had plastic surgery as soon as she got to Costa Rica. A nose job, a brow lift, and fillers in her lips. She also cut her pretty curls and colored red hair and turned it dark brown. Kaitlin doesn't waste any time trying to make sure that no one recognizes her. I mean, that's a pretty extreme makeover to go through, especially when you're telling the authorities later that you're innocent. I mean, her nose job could not have even been healed when the U.S. Marshals arrested her. She reminds me of that guy who escaped from jail a few months ago, and he managed to elude the cops for more than 2 weeks. So the police then get Kaitlin back to Austin, and they show her to her new digs, a jail cell, and that's where she remained until just 2 weeks before her trial, which was set to begin on October 30th of this year, 2023. While she was being escorted out of the jail to go to a doctor's appointment, Kaitlin, who had been working out like a mad woman in jail, takes off running in her striped black and white jail pants, and she tries to scale a wall to escape. Take a look. She even injures 2 officers in the process, and she makes it about 1.5 blocks away before the officers catch up with her. It turns out she's hiding thermal pants under her striped jail uniform. She clearly planned this escape. Can you believe it? Where was she planning to run to? Did she have a friend waiting somewhere with a getaway car? All of this would sort of be humorous if it weren't such a tragic story involving a young woman losing her life over what? Another woman's jealousy and insecurity, and a player of a guy who lied and deceived women and caused his insecure and maybe unstable girlfriend an incredible amount of torment. I know Kaitlin Armstrong, if she's the guilty party, is responsible for her own behavior, but I do feel that Colin Strickland bears some responsibility. Kaitlin was charged eventually with escape causing bodily injury for this getaway attempt, which is a second-degree felony. Hey, what's a few more charges when you're facing a potential life sentence? If Kaitlin Armstrong is found guilty, she could face up to 99 years in prison. Her prison guards better keep an eye on her 24/7, because she's the type who'll dig a tunnel out of her prison cell a la Shawshank Redemption, get out, and then flee to Mexico. So her trial is still ongoing as I speak. Unfortunately, it's not being televised, but Court TV has people in there reporting on it. Her family, as well as Mo Wilson's, have been in court keeping a close watch. By the way, after news of the crime got out and Colin's association with the alleged perpetrator was discovered, he was dropped by his racing sponsors. Maybe they didn't want to be associated in any way with a crime like this. Maybe they thought less of Colin after hearing about his behavior with Mo and Kaitlin. I would imagine sponsors prefer clean-cut athletes with stellar reputations. Thus, in the end, no one in this love triangle won. You have an athlete without sponsors, whose private life and dirty laundry has been aired to the world. You have a young woman facing a possible lifetime in prison. And you have a beautiful, talented, and much loved young woman, Mo Wilson, gone from this earth. Her parents have said that being told about her death was the 9/11 of their life. They will never be the same. The holidays will never be the same. Mo's mother, Karen, keeps one of Mo's shirts under her pillow when she sleeps. Mo's scent, she says, brings her comfort, and she fears what will happen when that scent eventually fades away. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories.